The Boston Bruins lineup appears set for tomorrow night's game against the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. We're going to preview that game as well as talk about how this team is sticking to Jim Montgomery's process amid a record-setting start and while they're being chased by some teams in the standings. Let's get into it, shall we?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Friday, December 2nd, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Bruins part of your day, 5 days a week, available on your favorite podcast app, and on YouTube. Please do subscribe if you have not already. Each new episode automatically added to your feeds. And on YouTube, you can get some bonus content, breaking news, post-game breakdowns, etc. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. They have you covered this season with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you also to those who reached out with some birthday well wishes. Yesterday was spent down in Hamilton, Ontario, checking out some cider places, enjoying a nice steak dinner as well. It was a very fun day, and glad to be back talking Boston Bruins hockey as they get set to host the Colorado Avalanche tomorrow evening. Bruins gathered for practice here on Friday, and for I think the first time this season, they're going to have their full A lineup iced. The other night, the forwards and defensemen were what we expect, with Jeremy Swayman getting the start, but now Linus Ullmark will get the call against the Avalanche, and Jim Montgomery sticking with the forward lines and defensive pairings that worked the other night. So that would be Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, Jake DeBrusk on the top line. The checkmates trio of Pavel Zacha, David Krejci, David Pastrnak on the second line. Taylor Hall continues his journey on the third line with Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick. And then on the fourth line, Nick Foligno, Thomas Nosek, and AJ Greer. Craig Smith remains out with both a lower body injury as well as overall ineffectiveness so far this season. On defense, we have top pairing of Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy, second pairing of Derek Forbort and Connor Clifton, and then the third pairing of Matt Grzelcyk and Brandon Carlo, with Jakub Zboril sitting out as the extra defenseman. As optimal a lineup as the Bruins can ice at the moment, in my estimation. And you could perhaps argue Smith over Frederick on the third line. Maybe Frederick's not well suited to play right wing as a left-hand shot. But we'll see what happens in this game against the Colorado Avalanche. Now the Avs coming into this one after having beaten the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday evening. They're now 13-7-1, a bit off their pace from last season, but they also have some key injuries that they're dealing with at the moment, with the likes of Gabriel Landeskog on injured reserve. They're without Bowen Byram, who is a very talented defenseman, and at the moment they're relying in part on Alex Galchenyuk, who they signed off their AHL team the other day. That shows you kind of how desperate they are at the moment. So Landeskog's out, Valerie Nichushkin also out. Bowen Byram, Evan Rodrigues. Those are 4 key parts of the team that are missing at the moment. Still, they do have some formidable players, obviously. Nathan MacKinnon, 8 goals, 25 assists through 21 games this season. Mikko Rantanen, up there as well, 31 points in 21 games. Cale Makar, a bit off his pace from a year ago. He's got 23 points in 21 games. Arturi Lehkonen, who was a pickup from the Montreal Canadiens last season. And Devin Taves rounding out the top 5 scorers for this team right now. To show you how much they miss Nichushkin, he had 12 points through 7 games to begin the season. And if you're looking for someone to keep an eye on, JT Compher, he's been playing a bigger role as of late. I believe he's on their second line at the moment. Second line center between Andrew Cogliano and Logan O'Connor. Getting first power play duties as well. So it's not the same Avalanche team that won the Stanley Cup due to injuries. Lost Nazem Kadri. But again, still a very good team. And the Bruins will be in tough against the champs. To be the man, you got to beat the man, they say. And the Bruins will get a chance to extend their home winning streak. That's record setting at the moment. And also get ready for Monday's game against the Vegas Golden Knights, which we will preview with the hosts of Locked On Golden Knights on Monday's podcast. So that's kind of the lay of land for the Bruins as they get ready for tomorrow night's game against the Avalanche. Before we talk about what is helping the Bruins so far this season, Jim Montgomery's coaching as well as trusting the process, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. Now, BetOnline is the #1 source for all sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from the World Cup of Soccer to all college and pro football games, NBA, NHL. They've got it all at BetOnline. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix in, and you can head to their website today. Use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Now check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports, you can go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Now, I saw an interesting article this morning on Boston Hockey Now via Joe Haggerty talking about head coach Jim Montgomery focusing on the process. That's been a key buzzword for the Bruins this season. We have seen it from leadership, Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, this whole mentality of taking one game at a time, one day at a time, one practice at a time. Focusing on the process allows players to be in the moment. That's just good philosophy for all of us in general, but it's helping the Bruins stay focused amid this incredible start to the season, and also keeping them from growing complacent or focusing on winning the Stanley Cup as opposed to the games that are on the schedule ahead of them. Montgomery said it keeps you in the moment and it keeps you present. You don't think about what's happened, and you don't get too happy with yourself from the past. You don't start focusing on the future either. You just stay in the moment, focus on what they think gives the team success, and it allows you to be consistently focused, and successful. Patrice Bergeron, like I mentioned, has been preaching to his Bruins teammates to stay in the moment, focusing on what's going on around them. And it's a big point of difference between Bruce Cassidy's style and Jim Montgomery's style. Not that Cassidy wasn't focusing on the moment, the process, but for Montgomery personally, it is something that he has adopted as kind of a mantra for himself in his personal life. We all know about his battle with alcoholism and his current recovery, but also it's something he learned as a player back when he was with the University of Maine. They played Northern Michigan during the Frozen Four back in 1991, and he said as a player he failed miserably during that experience. He's the career points leader at Maine with 301 points in 170 games. He remembers coming down from his room, getting on the bus, trying to get ready for the game. College band was playing the fight song. 500 people in the lobby of the hotel. And he was thinking, oh my God, this game is bigger than any game I've played. And he choked. And he said he was never going to let that happen again. He began honing in on his own process. Oh, excuse me. And that's allowed him to have success. And he doesn't think he's ever really choked again. It was a learning moment. Took that and thought there's got to be a way that he can impart that on his players so they stay in the moment. Not getting carried away in your own hype. Don't start thinking, man, this could be a Stanley Cup team or this person's at the game. There's got to be a mechanism and a routine that you have that allows you to get to your A game. Now, the Black Bears lost to Northern Michigan in overtime. Montgomery could have been a difference maker, but he choked, quote-unquote, during that game. Northern Michigan went on to win the NCAA title after an 8-7 win over Boston University in the final, a triple overtime classic. University of Maine went on to win it all in 1993 when Montgomery was a senior. And that learning experience has become a pillar of his coaching philosophy. It worked in Dallas. It's working here in Boston. And, oops, I forgot to turn that off. A quick recommendation for you in terms of learning to stick to the process, stay in the moment. If you haven't yet watched the Stutz documentary on Netflix, it's Jonah Hill in conversation with therapist Philip Stutz, and he gives a lot of amazing tools that we can use to stay in the process. Just something I've watched 1.5 times now already, and it's been a really cool experience. Not only just seeing Jonah Hill, who I love, talk about his personal experience, but also just learning to live in the moment, deal with past failure, achieve future success. I highly recommend that as well. And it's certainly working for the Boston Bruins, Jim Montgomery's philosophy there, as well as with the players. All right, we're going to take a quick break here again and then come back, tee you up for the weekend. All you need to know. Quick thank you again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Check out Locked On Celtics, Locked On Patriots, Locked On Red Sox for all your other Boston sports information. All right, so the Bruins in action, of course, Saturday night against the Colorado Avalanche. That will be a big test for them. Shutting down Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, Alexander Georgiev, I failed to mention him as well. In net has been stellar for the Avs. They allowed Darcy Kemper to walk in free agency, relying on Georgiev, who was acquired from the Rangers, as well as Pavel Francouz. Georgiev right now 11-3-1 with a .922 save percentage, so he's right up there with Linus Ullmark among the best goalies in the NHL to date. So Bruins will be in tough to maintain their league-leading almost 4 goal per game average. Up next for the Bruins will be a big game against the Colorado Avalanche. I mentioned Monday's podcast. I'll team up with the hosts of Locked On Golden Knights to discuss Bruce Cassidy's return to Boston. And then the Bruins head out onto the road to play Colorado, Vegas, sandwiched between a game against the Arizona Coyotes. That's all the latest on the Boston Bruins. Consider yourselves caught up. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope you all have a great weekend. We have a busy one on tap. Holiday scramble for our youngest. 3 hockey games on the schedule, including team pictures. Our middle boy is playing in his basketball playoffs. And the whole family is going to go nearby to cut down our Christmas tree and begin decorating that as we get ready for some family Christmas gatherings that are coming up. We're hosting 3 at our house. Family on all sides. And then we're heading to Ottawa later on this month to continue the merriment. I hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves, taking care of each other. And we'll talk to you again here on Monday on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.